He seemed overly distraught at her death, visiting her wake 3 times. A polygraph test was administered. It was done with no lawyer or parent present. He was given only coffee that day. He was interrogated by detectives for 6 hours in between 3 polygraph sessions, and after that, he confessed. He was told that he failed the polygraph tests. The detective expressed his belief that Jeffrey was guilty. Now, even though there was DNA testing, as they had semen from the rape kit, results showed Deskovic was not the source of the semen in that kit. Jeffrey was told if he was not the source of semen in the rape kit, he would be cleared as a suspect, but instead, prosecutors proceeded based on his confession. In 1991, he was convicted of first-degree rape and second-degree murder, despite DNA testing showing he was not the source of semen in the rape kit. The state argued the semen had come from a consensual sex partner and that Jeffrey had killed the victim in a jealous rage. His sentence was 16 years to life. In January of 2006, the Innocence Project, the one that Barry Scheck started with Peter Neufeld in New York, took his case. By then, there was a database nationwide and newer technology for testing DNA samples. So the database is that anyone who was arrested for a crime, a serious crime, would be there. In September of 2006, the semen was matched to a convicted murderer whose name was Stephen Cunningham, who was in prison for strangling the sister of his live-in girlfriend. In September of 2006, Jeffrey Deskovic was released from prison when his conviction was overturned. His case was dismissed on November the 2nd, 2006. He had served nearly 16 years. He won $40 million from New York. Not every state pays out in a wrongful conviction case. He set up a foundation in his name to help people like him who were wrongfully convicted. In May of 2019, Jeffrey Deskovic graduated from Pace with a degree in law. Now, I just mentioned compensation, and I wanted to tell you a little bit more about what that really means. At this time, 17 states out of the 50 states in our country give no compensation to those who have been wrongly incarcerated. 33 states do give something, but the amounts vary widely. Think about it. You have been in prison for decades, earning pennies per hour. You have no real job skills. Technology-wise, you are way behind. Do states have an obligation to compensate you for what was done to you? The Innocence Project says they do. They recommend $50,000 per year for every year you were wrongfully incarcerated. Now, here is a list of states which do not compensate people if they are wrongly incarcerated: Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Delaware, Georgia, Idaho, Kentucky, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Dakota, South Carolina, and Wyoming. Kansas just passed a comprehensive law in May of last year for the wrongly incarcerated. It will pay out $65,000 per year in addition to giving assistance with housing, tuition, counseling, and health care. In 2004, Congress passed the Justice for All Act. It guarantees people with federal crimes $50,000 per year for wrongful imprisonment and $100,000 for those sent to death row who were innocent. Now, this is federal only. Texas has paid out $93 million in the last 25 years for wrongful incarceration. And I wanted to give you a sampling of some states that do pay. Florida, for example, pays $50,000 a year for every year you were inside. However, the bill has a clean hands provision, meaning that before you were wrongfully locked up, if you had a prior felony, you get nothing. Texas pays $80,000 a year for every year that you're inside. Massachusetts caps their payment at $1 million. Colorado pays out $70,000 per year. And Iowa pays out $25,000 for lost wages per year, and that's the max. Louisiana pays out $250,000 total over a 10-year period. I wanted just to give you a case in point before we go, and it's a case of Malcolm Alexander, who is from Louisiana. He served 38 years for rape that DNA proved he did not commit. He had a lawyer who was later disbarred due to so many complaints about his failure to represent Mr. Alexander in a completely professional manner. The lawyer was the subject of many other complaints from past clients. Mr. Alexander was arrested at the age of 21 in 1979, long before DNA helped solve crimes of this type. He was identified by the victim, who was white, he was black, but she could not have seen him clearly, as she was raped in a small, dark bathroom from behind with a gun pointed at her head. Malcolm's sentence was life. His case was taken up by the Innocence Project in New York. In 1996, that's when they picked up his case, but they found the rape kit had been destroyed, just what I was saying before, along with a semen-stained towel, 4 years after Mr. Alexander's conviction. All that was left was hair evidence at the scene. DNA testing concluded the hair was not a match to Mr. Alexander's hair, and he was released in January of 2018. He filed for compensation from the state of Louisiana, but as I just said before, the maximum amount is $250,000. And here is a man who served 38 years of his life. So we have come to the end of our podcast today. I thank you so much for listening. If you have questions or comments, you can feel free to email me at HENDEL13. My last name is HENDEL @gmail.com. Hoping you'll tune in next time. Thank you so much for listening.